Gingerbread houses are a delicious part of the Christmas tradition. On this week's show, we're going to learn how to make this house and hopefully one day progress to this house as we talk about Hagley's Gingerbread House Contest. Oh, it's so good. Stand by. The 302 is getting sticky with it. Gingerbread houses are a delicious part of the Christmas holiday tradition, and Hagley is having a gingerbread house contest. Every year they do this. We're joined now by Laura Jury. She's going to tell us all about it. It's too late to join now, but next year could be your year. Laura, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about this annual tradition.
Well, it's actually 3 years in the making, so this year marks the third annual Gingerbread House Contest at Hagley. And we really wanted to make it special this year. We know 2020 has been really tough for a lot of people out there. So this year's contest has a Hometown Heroes theme. So we have just about 50 people registered for the contest. It will be on display from December the 1st all the way to January 3rd. We're going to have a panel of judges pick first place winners. And then throughout the season, we're going to invite people to vote on social and online for their favorite choice.
So when you say hometown hero, what do you mean?
That can be up to interpretation for the creator of the gingerbread house. So hometown hero can be someone that is in the medical field, a doctor or a nurse. It can be a teacher. It can even be a parent or a first responder. So whoever you feel the hometown hero is to you.
Now, a little bit later in the show, we're going to talk about this gingerbread house that was created by Chef Michelle Mitchell, and she's been with you guys all 3 years, right?
This is actually her second year returning. She's participated all 3 years, but this will be the second year she's doing the feature house. Last year, she did a beautiful interpretation of Leslie Manor, a historic house in Old Newcastle, Delaware, and then this year she's going to be paying tribute to first responders.
Now, for the folks that enter, not all the houses are going to be like this. Some of them just have a lot of TLC and a lot of emotion behind them. So you're going to see all different kinds of gingerbread houses, right?
That's absolutely correct. So people shouldn't be intimidated when they see a professional house made by Chef Michelle. So all skill levels are welcome to participate in the Gingerbread House Contest. And we do have different categories. So there's categories for families and adults as well as children. So all skills are welcome to participate and shouldn't be intimidated.
So this is a really great project for a family to do, especially now. We've all been locked down with COVID and doing various crafts, but this will really get you into the holiday spirit. And maybe if you go to the show, you can learn a tip or two.
Yes, I think that's a great idea in terms of creating a house together as a family. I think it's a great safe activity if you members of the same household are going to create a house together. It's a great way to spend some time, put on some holiday music and decorate together as a family. And then we've taken safety precautions. We have a new location this year. It will be one-way traffic in and out. There won't be large congregations, and the voting's all done online, so we want to keep everyone safe who comes to see the gingerbread house entries.
So talk to us a little bit about where we can see the gingerbread houses, and if we want more information on this or anything at Hagley.
The gingerbread houses will be on display in Hagley's Millwright shop. So this is a new location for 2020 for the Gingerbread House Contest. You would just check in as you normally would at our museum store to gain admission, and you can take a bus or walk down to the building where the gingerbread houses will be on display. And you can find more information about this and all of our holiday celebrations at hagley.org/holidays.
Laura, thank you very much. We're looking forward to it.
All right, thanks, Jackie.
We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Debbie Harper. I am here at the Winterthur Museum, and we encourage everyone at the 302 to come and visit us, where you are always a welcome guest.
Welcome back. We're talking about Hagley's Gingerbread Contest, and we wanted to talk to an expert, kind of, find out what it takes to build these gorgeous, gorgeous gingerbread houses, and also to find out where they came from. We've all heard of Hansel and Gretel, but this is much more than Hansel and Gretel. I'm joined by Michelle Mitchell. Now, you are a chef.
Yes.
So tell us, where does the gingerbread house come from?
Well, the research I've done so far on gingerbread, it dates back to the Roman time. 992 was the first recipe that I found that was about gingerbread. But Queen Elizabeth I was actually credited for the gingerbread men cookies. So she would give her visiting dignitaries a likeness in gingerbread of them as a gift.
Nice.
So that's where the gingerbread men came from as far as a cookie. The houses date back to when the Brothers Grimm wrote the nursery rhyme or the story of Hansel and Gretel with the gingerbread house in the wood with the witch that the little boy and girl get led to and get entrapped in. So that was where the gingerbread house came from. So that was a German thing. It didn't really take off in England. But the German migrants into the United States apparently brought the gingerbread house with them. So
the Germans also do a lot of shaping. I know that for Oktoberfest they do hearts, and they put all these great like Liebchen and everything on the hearts. So
the gingerbread cookie in the shape of the heart, which is a very German tradition, was given to people as a gift of love. So they would exchange cookies, and the heart shape being one of the most popular.
Well, cookies are always a good thing to get. So
Absolutely.
What about you? I mean, what was your journey? How did it start?
So after graduating from culinary school, my first job, that first holiday season, the tradition of the casino I was working in made gingerbread houses for the lobby. And I had never made a gingerbread house, especially that many, 25 of them, decorated in a traditional German style, where they bake the gingerbread and they decorate the front of the houses and the backs and the sides before it even goes in the oven with candied fruit and almonds. And then it gets baked in the oven and comes out and you put it together. And then it's just accentuated with details of what they call royal icing, which is the glue that holds the house together.
Now, a lot of folks, they do gingerbread kits at home. I know I have one waiting for my family. But a lot of these gingerbread houses really aren't meant to be eaten, is that right?
Correct. I mean, they are exposed to the air for long periods of time. And yes, I don't know if I'd want to eat them myself. Like this gingerbread house I did is 2 years old now. And technically everything on there is edible, but I wouldn't want to eat it, that's for sure.
Now, what was the inspiration for this house?
So this was the first year that Hagley had done the gingerbread house competition. And they had a display, exhibit on display of miniatures. So it used to be back in the 19th and 20th century, people would collect miniature everything, right? The miniature doll houses, miniatures. So that was my miniature version of a gingerbread house for them.
So whenever you put it together, how long does something like this for you take?
Well, I was really busy that holiday season and I really wanted to enter the competition, so I said I gave myself a day and a half. So yes, I did that in a day and a half. Now I already had the gingerbread dough made, so it was easy to just roll it out and cut out the pieces and put it together.
So whenever you're coming, well, because you're an expert, when you're coming up with a design, I mean, what goes through your head? How do you figure out what you're going to create? Because you've done your creations have really varied from.
Yes, so there was a local charity that used to ask pastry chefs in the area to donate a house for their silent auction to help raise money for their charity. So that became a thing. It started off with one of my classic, German style gingerbread houses to these big mansions. And that's where this kind of came from. So a lot of these patterns I get back then were actual dollhouse patterns.
So whenever you're figuring out a pattern, it's not just the house itself. I see that you've got kind of like a landscape. So it's the whole shebang for you.
Yeah, I do like to incorporate the landscape. I don't want it to be just the house. So you have the walkway and the mailbox and the little, snowmen with the snowballs and the trees that are decorating people's yards. And I like to tie it all in together.
Of all the gingerbreads that you've done, gingerbread houses or gingerbread buildings, as it were, what has been the most challenging and the most rewarding?
Well, I'd have to say the most challenging was last year's exhibit that was put on display at Hagley, and that was a local house. It's a local mansion in Old Newcastle called Leslie Manor. Friends of mine and their parents actually own that mansion, so it was really, I'm not going to say it was simple because it definitely wasn't simple, but it was more accessible for me to get the dimensions I needed, and that was quite a task. It took at least a day and a half just to lay out the blueprint that I had to hand draw. So I had to bring my protractor from high school, which I'd never done before for a gingerbread house pattern. But then we did a paper model first, and we put the whole thing together out of paper. And then we took that apart after we labeled each piece, and that's what I used as a stencil to cut out the gingerbread pieces. And then putting them all back together was a whole other adventure.
And what did the homeowners say?
They were like overwhelmed, totally impressed. Yeah, and Hagley had it on display for the whole month.
So what I want to do is I'd like you to show the novices out there, you know, the best way to put together a gingerbread house. And maybe this year we can make this for our parlors, for our families, and of course have the number of a good dentist on the ready.
Exactly.
But we're going to do that when we come right back.
I'm Michael Evans from Battle Axe, and I'd like you to ask me about the 302.
Welcome back. We are here with the gingerbread lady, Michelle Mitchell, and she's going to show us how we can make a gingerbread house just like this, sort of. Anyways, so give us the best tips so that we can impress our families. What do we got to do?
Okay, well, the first thing you need to do is come up with the design for the house, how big you want it, and because that's going to determine a lot of things. It's going to determine how much dough you need to make, how much icing you need to have. So if you go online, you can just Google gingerbread house templates, and you can print them out on paper and then cut them out. So you're going to need to cut out the pieces. So when you cut out the pieces, that'll determine how much dough you need. So like this is a roof, and this site was really nice because it had labeled what each piece was, and you would just need to cut out two because the house has two roofs. And then this is the front and the back, so that means you need two. So you cut out two pieces of this. And to be able to do that, you would just take the template, lay it on the gingerbread dough, take your knife, and just cut around it. I put my dough, after I roll it out, into the fridge so that it's nice and firm. So it does help when you're cutting. If you just roll the dough out and then try to cut it, it's too soft and it drags and you lose the shape of the dough. Another trick when you're cutting out dough is you want to make sure that you have similar pieces side by side. So that way you can line up the side that's already cut, put this down, and then just cut around it again. Another trick is you want to make sure after you've cut out all your pieces that you don't move them, because now your dough is getting soft because it's been at room temperature. So you're going to want to pick this up, put it back in the sheet pan, and put it back in the fridge to let the dough harden again. So then you can pick up the pieces and move them around. When you're baking, you want to make sure you have all the same size pieces on the same sheet pan. If you put all your little windows and doors and your big bases on the same sheet pan, your little windows and doors are going to be done first before your bigger pieces. So they'll basically get way too dark and burn. Now I like to say I like my dough baked darker so that it's more stable. The gingerbread dough is baked light, it's usually softer, and then you have the chance that your house might collapse. So you want to make sure it's really dark and really firm. So these two, as you can see, are slightly different, but they are still really hard. This was just baked longer. As long as they're nice and firm, you'll have better luck with your house maintaining its shape.
So we get everything cut out and
Yes, we do.
baked. So the next step,
Yeah, when you go to assemble the house, you're going to want to have a base that you can able to pick the house up on. Like this one is on a base. It makes it easier to transport it and to assemble it. So you're going to pick a really nice base. Now you can have a gingerbread base as well to build on, but you don't necessarily have that if you have a nice board. But you can still use it. So you take, that's the side. So we match up your pieces. So that is a roof, and this is a side. So you can use this as a guide too after you're done cutting them out so you remember which piece is which. Now you are going to stick it together with royal icing. Royal icing is just egg whites and cream of tartar, which is a little bit of an acid you add to the powdered sugar. The cream of tartar breaks down the gelatinousness of the proteins in the egg whites. So it makes it smoother and silkier, but it also helps the egg whites to dry out, the royal icing, so it will dry nice and hard like this. So you're going to have your sides, my roof's over here, and a front. So you're going to take one piece and you put the icing on the bottom edge and the side. Okay, and then you're just going to stick it to the board. So this is the back of the house. I always start in the back. Then you take your side and you're going to put it like that. So you need to know where it goes. So you're just going to pipe a line straight out from there. And the good thing about doing this in the base is if you pipe too much, it just becomes the snow that's on the ground. And there you stick those together. So I always just start off with a corner, right? So the corner is going to make everything more stable. So then you can put the other side on and then the roof, of the front, sorry. So you need to pipe up this side of the house and pipe straight out like we did before. And you take this piece and you just put this on, holding this like this, just like that. And you want to make sure they're square, right? So you want to make sure that your angles are perpendicular to each other, and then this is going to go in between. So then we're just going to pipe lines here, up the side, and up this side. So you can tell that it can get a little tricky if your gingerbread's not baked hard enough. Squeeze that in there, and there's the front of your house.
It seems so easy.
Yeah, it's done.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! So then you're going to want to put your roof on. Now normally I would let this dry solid overnight before I would attempt to put the roof on. The important thing about putting the roof on is you want to make sure you get icing on all sides, filling in the gaps. So when you take one of your roof's panels and you put it on, it needs to match the top right here, like that. And you're always going to have a little bit of overhang, right? And then you can see on the inside, the seam on the inside there, you can see where you're going to have gaps, and you can tell why it's important to have it dry overnight before you attempt this, but I'll just do this to show you. Then you can go in and go like this, and you're going to go across the top. Then you're going to take your other roof and place it on. And they do overlap a little on the top just for stability, just like that. Like I said, you would normally let this dry overnight so it's nice and stable. So if this does slide off, but you seal it with icing on the top just like this, makes it look like a little bit of snow. And that's it. Now we go back over all the edges and do like a little border to make it look like piles of snow, make it a little decorative. So this is more of a classic gingerbread house style versus the one behind us, which looks more realistic of a house.
And I guess you just have to play with the different kinds of piping for the frosting.
Absolutely. Like this is just a little bit more Hansel and Gretel-esque. The other trick about doing the icicles is you want to have it come down like this. So this is how you would do the icicles. You pipe and then you stop squeezing and drag it away slowly, and then you have your icicles.
So what are you doing now?
Now I'm going to put the door on. So you don't have to cut out a door in your archway. You could just put the door on. But I've always had doors open in the house so that it looks like there's some intrigue there. Now the chimney that you would normally put on, you have to build it after you've cut it out in the stencils. But again, this roof has not set up overnight, so I'm not sure if it's going to be stable enough. But we can just stick it on and we'll see what happens. So you would just put icing just like when we built the house on each side, and then stick it on. Just like that. There we go. Move him out. That's the side of your chimney. And just like that. There we go.
Ta-da!
So miraculously it's held up without having dried overnight.
So for the folks at home who are, not making something like this, but they're making something smaller, what tips do you have, for like decoration for like the roof or?
So a lot of the decorations I've done on the roof, which I think is sliding, I can't tell. Like this house, I used fondant, which is the fondant usually goes over the cakes. Just rolled it out nice and smooth, cut out strips, and I just laid the strips on top of the roof to make it look like tiles. Some of the chocolate chips you can buy now are like chocolate coins, like just little circles, not the morsels, and I've used those as shingles on roofs before as well.
So
again, pipe icing, just put the roofs on.
So there's just really no rules. It's just all a matter of your imagination.
Yep.
And
like the Christmas trees, they are done from an ice cream cone. The sugar ice cream cones, I hold the ice cream cone between my fingers like this, and I just pipe starting at the bottom with the royal icing and go all the way up, and it becomes a tree.
Well, Chef Michelle, thank you so much for
You're very
showing
welcome.
us the basics. You're going to have to come back next year and show us how to do an expert decoration like this.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank
We'll be
you.
right back. For more information on the Gingerbread House contest, you can visit hagley.org. We leave you now with the sights and sounds of Christmas at Hagley. Until next time, I'm Jackie Ferris. We'll see you on the 302.